Hello. Welcome to my channel, Crime in Court. I am Heather, and I'm here with a Murdaugh update. So, you may or may not know that Alex Murdaugh was in court yesterday with his attorneys, and this article is a little brief overview of what happened yesterday. So, from James Pollard with the Associated Press, here it goes. All right, so Alex Murdaugh faces a steep uphill battle in his push for a new murder trial after a state judge on Tuesday limited witness questioning and set a high burden of proof surrounding accusations that the court clerk tampered with the jury during last year's sensational proceedings. I'll just continue. Even if Murdaugh's lawyers prove that Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill told jurors not to believe his testimony and pressured the jury into reaching a guilty verdict, they must also demonstrate that she did so with prejudice against Murdaugh. Former South Carolina Supreme Court Justice Jean Toal ruled. So she ruled specifically that it's not enough just to have spoken to the jury, but to say something that may have prejudiced them, but she really had to change their verdict, which is a much higher standard than I actually think the law requires. And if you go through the defense's motions to seek a new trial regarding this, it seems like they have a case. It really does. But then, and they make the argument for the fact that they don't need to prove that she changed anybody's opinion on how they would vote, which they stated case law. But in this particular hearing yesterday, Jean Toal was like, we're only looking at such and such record. I can't remember what it was. Like, they're only looking at whatever case in the past. She's limiting it to like one specific case and how those rulings went, and that's how she's leaning, and which means she's probably gonna which meant she was going to probably be leaning towards giving them the evidentiary hearing, but she had her reservations and was very limited in what was going to take place. So that's kind of what happened yesterday. I did watch some of it, most of it, and I watched some recaps of it, so I'll try to interject as we go along. All right, so Toal also said she will not ask about other wide-ranging accusations of wrongdoing against Hill, including that the elected official misused public funds and plagiarized parts of her new book on the Murdaugh saga. So in previous videos, I've talked about how Becky Hill, plagiarized the book that she was writing. She also misappropriated funds, and I believe she misrepresented how allegedly misrepresented how those funds were being used. And on top of that, like, she was allegedly telling jurors, and one in particular, the egg juror, who was eventually removed and an alternate juror was put in her place. There may have been some involvement on Becky Hill's part in getting that juror removed and falsifying evidence to get that juror removed. And that juror was not decided yet, or was leaning towards, not guilty at that point, because Becky Hill asked her, and she wasn't supposed to ask her any of those things. So I really feel that Jean Toal missed the mark on this one. In my opinion, I think if all of the things that Becky did, is the alleged things against her, if any of them are true, I mean, I think that it really does set a precedent of, who we're having as elected officials and what they're allowed to do with their power. All right, so Toal said she will not ask about the wide-ranging accusations of wrongdoing, including the elected official misuse of public funds. Okay. Toal took over the request for a new trial after the judge overseeing the case, Clifton Newman, recused himself late last year, and he's also on the verge of retiring if he hasn't already. And it's more like a forced retirement because of his age. He's reached the maximum age of being a judge, at least in South Carolina law. I don't know what it is anywhere else, but that's what I've heard. All right, so Hill has sworn that she did not ask jurors about Murdaugh's guilt and never suggested that he committed the murders. State police are investigating the jury tampering and misuse of office allegations against Hill, but have not charged her with any crimes. And I think it's interesting. What if they do find her guilty of some sort of jury tampering? Can't that shouldn't that automatically give him a new trial? I don't know. So if state police are investigating it, maybe he still has some sheer hope, like a little glimpse of hope to get a new trial. I don't know. It seems like the way Judge Toal ruled yesterday, she's not having it. So anyways, her attorneys, Hill's attorneys, did acknowledge last month, however, that she had submitted a BBC reporter's writing to her co-author as if it were her own words. So we talked about that in another video. Evidentiary hearings beginning January 29th will include Hill and the deliberating jurors. The judge will not seek testimony from Newman. So Judge Newman will not be called to the stand to be questioned. But Hill will, and only the deliberating jurors, which is how Jean Toal ruled on that, limits the ability for Murdaugh's attorneys to investigate further into the egg juror, or to look, to question the egg juror who may have been removed because of Becky. So I think that, like I said, I think Judge Toal missed the mark, because if Becky had anything to do with that, she ultimately affected the makeup of the jury, which ultimately affects the verdict. So new trial, in my opinion. And like or love the guy, whoever, whatever side you're on. I don't love Alex Murdaugh. I don't have many feelings either way. I think what he did to his clients that he's admitted to is just disgusting, but I also feel like he didn't get a fair trial. So I think he's owed a new trial if these allegations come to be true. So where was I? Evidentiary hearings beginning January 29th will include Hill and the deliberating jurors. The judge will not seek testimony from Newman. She also expressed doubt that she would admit thousands of Hill's emails as exhibits. And there's kind of a funny exchange between her and Harpootlian, his Murdaugh's attorney, where she is like annoyed that there's so many emails of Becky Hill's, and it's not like Harpootlian can change, has anything to do with the amount of emails that we would have to sift through to, make any sense of. And it's not like that's Harpootlian's fault, but she made it seem like it was just an inconvenience that there were so many, so she might not allow them. That's kind of where I felt that conversation went, that exchange. All right. So, quote, "I'm very, very reluctant to turn this hearing about juror contact into a wholesale exploration about every piece of conduct by the clerk alleged to have been improper on its own, indicative of her characteristics or personality or anything of that nature," end quote, Toal said. So she's kind of laying down the law here, and it's not good for Murdaugh. Quote, "This is not the trial of Miss Hill," end quote, she said later, emphasizing that the inquiry is focused on the court clerk's interactions with jurors and the jury's ability to impartially reach a verdict. So she's counting two factors. What was the court clerk's interactions with the jurors, and did they cross a line? And then two, even if she did cross that line, did that impact the verdict? So that's kind of how Judge Toal is going with that. You can see how she's most likely going to rule. So Murdaugh is serving life imprisonment without parole after a jury found him guilty last March of unaliving his wife Maggie and younger son Paul in June 2023. He also faces an additional 27 years after pleading guilty in November to stealing millions of dollars, and that is from his clients who he would, many of them who were injured and needed that money, or, they were suffering hard times, and that money would have been very beneficial for them. But instead, Murdaugh took it as his own. So he admitted to those, which he wholeheartedly admitted to those on the stand, as we know. And it could have just been like a ploy to make people think like, oh, he admitted to that, so wouldn't he admit to killing his family if he did? But I also look at it on the other side. Like, I would want to fess up to the things that I had done that were terrible. And if I was trying to clear my conscience, I would admit everything, not just some things. So I don't know. But we're talking about Alex Murdaugh, who is kind of a sociopath. So, I'm not diagnosing. I don't know anything about that. I'm just stating based on the things that we saw. And I'm not calling him a sociopath. It's just the way he's been portrayed in the media and by many people. So anyways, moving on. Toal's narrow rules were tougher than those sought by Murdaugh lawyers during the Tuesday hearing held to determine the scope of the 3-day evidentiary hearing later this month. So there's 3 days being held for an evidentiary hearing starting January 29th. And it might, like, they have it on the schedule that it could even go to 5 days. I also overheard somewhere. So it could be wild. It could be crazy. We could get all these jurors and Hill's testimony. And I'm dying to see Hill's testimony because I think it's going to be very interesting and see what transpires. But anyways, attorney Jim Griffin argues that prejudice should be assumed. The state carries the burden of proving that unauthorized third-party communication, such as Hill's alleged interaction, was harmless. So they need to prove that it was harmless. Toal sided with the state, noting that the court has an affidavit from only one deliberating juror who swears that outside contact occurred. She said she wants to hear specific evidence about how the juror perceived Hill's alleged comments. Toal struck another blow for the defense by blocking questions about what effect the jury tampering alleged by Murdaugh's lawyers might have had on the jury deliberations. So what did it change the deliberations? Did it change their verdict? She wants to know. She will ask jurors only about its possible impact on their final conclusion and not how they reach their decision. So, again, she's limiting the questioning that's happening here with the jurors. Quote, no one, not myself or anyone else, is going to be asking a juror about the specifics of their deliberation, end quote, Judge Toal said. State prosecutor Creighton Waters had added that had asked Toal to prevent a far-ranging fishing expedition. It's hard to say fast. All right, so, quote, a far-ranging fishing expedition, end quote, into the post-trial revelations of Hill's plagiarism and wiretapping charges against her son. So Creighton Waters is just stating that the defense is trying to fish for any kind of evidence, data, information that they can regarding Becky Hill. And Creighton Waters, the prosecutor for the state, is saying, no, we don't want that. We don't want him to be able to go in and just, start looking through Miss Hill's everything. All right, so Waters said conversations with jurors and clerks staff indicate the verdict was not influenced by anything, quote, unprofessional or untoward, end quote. All right, so defense attorney Dick Harpootlian argued that Hill's new book, which is currently unpublished for the foreseeable future, according to her legal team, is relevant because it establishes a motive. And I kind of agree to this. He said that Hill told an assistant during the trial that a guilty verdict would be good for her book sales. So, I mean, you can't deny that multiple people have said things about this. And there's multiple issues at play right now. So they all kind of interconnect. And they interconnect at Becky Hill. And we're not seeing all of it right now, or Judge Toal is not going to let us see all of it. So Toal reprimanded the longtime lawyer Harpootlian Harpootlian. She reprimanded Harpootlian for his continued suggestion that Hill sought to enrich herself by pushing jurors toward a guilty verdict. Which I don't understand, because if it's true, it should be allowed, in my opinion, but okay. Quote, I hope that's the last time you're going to repeat that until I ask for that again. Let's move on from that, end quote, Toal said at one point. So she was angry with Harpootlian for bringing up the book continually, but I think it plays a role. The evidentiary hearings will be on the record and held in open court. Court television cameras will be allowed, but cannot focus on the testifying jurors, who will be referred to by their number and not their names. So that's how they're keeping it private, so that the jurors aren't released to the public, their names or their faces. So Toal also expressed openness to other ways of ensuring the jurors' privacy, such as obscuring their faces during testimony. A lawyer for two jurors asked that Toal deny news outlets entry into the courtroom to limit the litigative stress, quote unquote, on his clients. Attorney Joe McCullough suggested that Toal avoid the, quote, distraction and the imposition, end quote, of the news media by allowing journalists to instead watch the examinations elsewhere on a live stream. Quote, no damage would be done to the right of the public to know and participate in the proceedings, end quote, is what Attorney McCullough said. He's the attorney for two of the jurors. These are just comments. I really wasn't going to go into the comments, but I just wanted to give you that quick update. This is on Reddit. I wanted to give you that quick update on Becky Hill because there's a lot going on, and she will be having to testify now, we know, in open court. The hearing is going to start January 29th. I'm not sure when she will be testifying, but I'm sure we'll find out more when that time gets closer. So let me know in the comments. Give this video a like, please. Share, subscribe. I would love to get more viewers and build this channel, because I'm really trying to uncover injustices and speak about things that our society needs to be speaking about. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and give me a comment below. Let me know what you think of Murdaugh and his attorneys. What do you think of Becky Hill? All right. Talk to you later. Bye.